Dear truckers of the world, what kind of weird, filthy, fun or shocking stories can you tell us that you encountered on highway service stations?
I'm a trucker, but not a service station. I stopped for my mandatory break at a public toilet in a beat blank and you miss a country town. There's a glory hole in the wall and it's been there for as long as I remember, even stopping in that town as a kid when my family traveled city to city. Anyway, I stopped in for a piss after 6 a.m., the car park was empty but the glory hole cubicle's door was shut. I thought it odd, but stepped up to the urinal and midstream I get interrupted by a bold and airy yoo-hoo and turned to look at a cock poking through the hole. It's not going to suck itself. I lost my beep laughing and the guy pulled his dick back in. I laughed so hard lights came on in nearby houses. Edit, oh wow, thanks for the awards. Edit 2, aw shucks y'all, this pile of awards and likes was a great thing to end a day with. Worth a weird dicking.
Ex-trucker here. Backstory: went through a time where I wanted to do enforcement work, scale house, etc. Got a chance to work at an inspection station for a day. Call comes over the radio for a truck having a hard time keeping the lane, hitting the rumble strips, possibly drunk. He's approaching the station officer I'm with, turns on the lights and figures he'll pull in and we can talk to them. Guy pulls around back for inspection. Officer asks if I can go out back and talk to him, make sure he has all his documents in order and he'll be out in a minute. I walk up to the truck, older man driving. Make sure he's got his documents. Noticed his eyes were red and he appeared to have just gotten through a good tear fest. I ask him if he's okay and he begins to say he was driving and was having a breakdown thinking about his wife who passed away and he thought he was fine but it was catching up with him. The story of his wife's passing was they drove together for quite some time. They stopped at a truck stop for dinner and to stop for some sleep. He stopped by the entrance to the truck stop so she could go in and get food ordered. It's late at night, she gets out, he heard the door close and grabbed a gear and went to go find a spot. Well, she fell on the way out and he had not noticed over the sound of the motor. When he drove away he crushed her with the truck as she laid on the concrete. I stood there white-faced and shocked about this tragic story. The kicker to all this is myself, at the time being a relatively green CDL driver, asked when it happened. It was the week before and he couldn't afford to take time off because he was an owner-operator barely scraping by, and I remember him saying to me, I care, but the bank don't give a beep, so here I sit, poor soul out there dealing with that news. I think about him from time to time. To this day I'm always hyper aware of people near any vehicle or equipment I'm operating. Be safe out there. Edit, oh wow, thanks folks for the awards and upticks. I hope that if you drive or are a pedestrian, always keep a lookout, it can happen anywhere.
Had a few interesting ones over the last few years. The one that stands out the most was being woken up by gunshots at 4 in the morning at a truck stop just outside of Alabama. I got out of my bunk and there was some big, burly dude wearing nothing but a pair of flip-flops and a wife beater waving a gun around and screaming that some lot lizard, hooker, had stolen his money. Police showed up a few minutes later. He refused to cooperate. Finally, this female cop tased him while another one tackled him. Glad nobody got seriously hurt, but was hilarious when the cops tased him and dragged him off in his flip-flops and nothing else since he had thrown his shirt at one of the cops. Another time, in Texas, I saw a Japanese guy with his family walking around a truck stop lot. He kept walking up to drivers, would talk a few minutes, then walk away. Didn't think much of it until I started to go inside and he approached me and my co-driver. I asked if there was something I could help him with and he asked if there were any truck stop ladies around. I asked why he wanted a lot lizard, especially with his wife and kids there, and he said that he wanted to get a picture of his family with one since it was the first time his family had ever stopped at a truck stop, and they had already taken a picture with a driver, a truck, and by the diesel pumps. I just wished him good luck and went about my business.
This happened to an uncle of mine. He was new and had a 2-person buddy system with a lady who was his instructor. Uncle's wife did not like her at all and thought she was going to seduce him. 2 days into a drive, uncle is going to the truck stop to eat, goes back to the truck, and opens the door. Turns out the instructor was a lesbian, and was preoccupied with a sex worker. The instructor and the sex worker got married about 5 months later and they spend their Christmases with all of us because their own families have disowned them. They're very happy. Our family recipes have become their family recipes. The instructor will wait until her wife's out of earshot and say, "Best $20 I ever spent."
I was on the road a little over a year and saw someone way out on an interstate waving down cars. I stopped and found out that she was kidnapped something like 3 months ago. She called her husband on my phone after I called the cops. He called me back like an hour later and cussed me out because I wasn't still with her. Lol. He saw her the next day in the hospital after she was admitted for observation. Edit, thank you for the awards. I just have to say that I was lucky to be in the right place and the right time to help. Please take a basic first aid class and pass it on. Edit 2, I won't go deep into her story because I want to stay anomalous. Here is what I will say. She was just being held by a group of people. They didn't harm her besides not letting her go. No one got arrested for the crime that I know of. She is still recovering from this ordeal and there was no clear motive.
10-year veteran from the trucker life. Nothing crazy at a truck stop, but in Nebraska during the summer a cattle truck had flipped taking a turn too fast. Fully loaded, cow parts thrown everywhere. It looked like a movie. It's hard to get the image of butchered cows laying everywhere on the interstate out of your head.
Not a trucker but work in the industry. Probably once or twice a year a trucker will call me and tell me he can't pick up a load see he beep his pants. Then they email me pictures to prove it.
Not a trucker. Took my grandfather's AC Cobra out for one last ride after he passed. He always wanted to do a cannonball run sort of thing. So I did a short run of it. On the interstate I was going the speed limit, wink, and every trucker gave the thumbs up and made sure to clear the way for me. I suppose due to it being a cool car. I know they were working back and forth about me for some 10 miles or so when a trucker put his arm out the window to motion slow. A mile up the road was some state boys doing LIDAR and conducting a speed trap. Thankful for those OTR guys for that day and them helping me not get an expensive ticket.
I was hungry and pulled into a rundown diner that barely got my rig into safely. But I didn't care, I was hungry and there was no truck stop around for a long time. The girl flipping burgers on an old blackened grill had a smoke hanging out of her mouth. She was big, greasy, pimply. She was talking and joking and cohorting more with the customers than watching the food. Desperate, I ordered a grilled ham and cheese and watched her barely pay attention to it as it sizzled on the grill. I finally got the sandwich and it was the best damn grilled ham and cheese I ever ate. That was 20 years ago and I still think of that sandwich.
I've only been doing OTR for about 2 years now. I'd say the weirdest thing to happen to me was while I was asleep in my bunk at a truck stop someone tried to open my door. It woke me up out of a dead sleep cause it sounded like they were really trying hard to open it. My doors were locked so I put a shirt on and sat in the driver's seat. I saw a small woman in my side mirror walking away and then saw her try another truck's door. After seeing her do this about 4 times I figured she was a lot lizard. She looked pretty young so I called the police and let them come check on her. They came and spoke with her. She tried to run from them at first but I just wanted to make sure she was okay. They let her go and some guy in a beat-up car picked her up and she left. Also I've been flashed several times while driving.
Going on 8 years now and I have seen a lot but one always sticks out. I'm at a red light behind a few cars and see this lady walking on the sidewalk along my driver's side. On the other side of the sidewalk she is walking is a Burger King with the drive-thru next to the sidewalk. Well as me and all the cars in line waiting in the poor car at the drive-thru and person working there this lady stops, pulls down her pants and takes the biggest beep I have ever seen, pulls pants back up and keeps on walking. I will never forget the face of the drive-thru driver and worker's face as they were maybe 5 feet from the action. Thank you Fullerton CA.
I was 12 to 13 at the time, but my family stopped at a rest area for me to pee. This particular stop didn't have anything, no buildings, no tables, no grass. Just space for truckers to park and rest, and 2 porta potties. I had a 50-50 chance at leaving this area without a mental scar, but I wasn't so lucky. I picked the door on the left, opened it, and immediately slammed the door shut in horror, because some unfortunate soul with an impacted colon had left a turd that was easily 8 inches around at its widest point directly on the seat rather than inside the toilet. My family couldn't see inside, but they saw my reaction and were still laughing by the time I had finished and returned to tell them what I had seen.
There was a thread like this about 10 years ago that had the most amazing story involving a monkey beating a Rottweiler with a mini baseball bat. One of my all-time favorites on Reddit. Edit, see below.
Not a trucker but work in a rail yard where a lot of truckers come and go. Truckers bring their very underdressed lady friends along and let them walk around. Truckers go in between rail cars and piss and beep. I can't count how many times I've seen trucker penis. My yard is pretty trashy. As in when I walk tracks I see truckers openly throw trash bags out their windows, along with their purr bottles and beep bags. I've seen truckers park in the crane path lane and get bulldozed over. I've seen truckers try to beat trains and get bulldozed through. For us rail workers, most of the things we see truckers do is shocking. We see a lot of filth and have to work, stand, and sit in it too. There's 2 porta potties for the whole yard and see anywhere from 1K, 2K truckers in and out each shift, so don't get me started on the porta potties. As a female I never go in them. Also I can't count how many times I've almost gotten hit by truckers going over the speed limit in the yard. Can't count how many truckers almost hit other truckers cause they are too busy on their phones. Can't count how many truckers drive off the rails. So yay, truckers are a different breed.
Not a trucker, but I work in the industry. My drivers tell me all the time about this girl fingering herself at the light, this guy getting a BJ on the highway, this couple doing lines off the dashboard. It's a weekly occurrence. I hear one of these stories. I also heard that some of the drivers who try to cheat the federal regulated rules will cut a hole in the floor of their truck so they can piss and beep in said hole to avoid stopping. You need to understand, in the transportation industry, time is beep money. And not only will they not stop to piss or beep, they will drive well past the legal hours limit to get the job done, which can end in disaster. See Walmart versus Tracy Morgan.
So, there is an interchange between I-5 and 101. It's an uneven roadway, with only 2 lanes, and it's got a hard bank on it. Anyways, a trucker is going hard into the corner, and someone cuts him from low, and he corrects, but doesn't hold the edge, and ends up on his side, with the load everywhere. That load? Thousands of live chickens. Now, lots of them die on collision, but many of them live. And they are beep everywhere on the freeway. Across all lanes, in all directions, on both highways. So, it takes them a few hours to clear the highway of the live chickens, and most of the remains of the dead ones. Not 2 weeks later, at the same interchange, just down the road about 500 yards. A watermelon truck rolls over. I beep you not. Watermelons everywhere. Fortunately, they don't run, but still, a huge mess. Sadly, the beer trucks were all fine that week. But, around here, it's a pretty famous story. Almost too good to believe, but there it was.
I had an uncle who used to tell the story of many years ago. He was taking a load to the West Coast. He hit a truck stop in the Midwest, and there was a girl, couldn't be more than 14, trying to sell her stuff and doing it badly. He told her he'd give her $100. She gets in and he drives off, promises he's going to help her. Finds out SHR ran away. He stops, gets her a fast food dinner, and drops her at a local shelter. She gets in, then goes on his way. On his way back from the West Coast he stops, same place. There she is again, this time looking worse for the wear. He just sighed and got his shower, food, and moved on.
My dad was at a truck stop. He said a prostitute came up to him and said, "Hey hun, do you want some service?" Then he asked, "How much do you charge for this guy?" Then he points to my dog and she got really pissed, then walked off.
Not a trucker, but I once saw a woman picking her ass like a lock, and the next thing she does is reach for the fries in her car. I am still seeing a therapist for the trauma.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.